7 o'clock, we'll start the Inland Wetlands Commission meeting for Wednesday, January 19th, 2022. So you want to start with the check to see who's here, who's not?
All right, Commissioner Hannon.
I am here.
Commissioner Berlandy.
Here.
Commissioner Fox.
Here.
Commissioner Eisner.
Here.
Commissioner Kelsey.
Present.
Commissioner Simpson.
Here.
And then Commissioner Stachin.
Here.
And then alternate Commissioner Brick. All right.
And
So
first item on the agenda is Pond LLC 7476 Patterson Park Road.
The applicant is here.
So is there anything that they would like to present this evening?
No, Mr. Chair, it's Tom Daly with SLR. As the commission knows, we went through, I think, a thorough presentation to this commission at our last meeting. With me was also Megan Raymond, who presented the findings of her report. So at this point, my understanding is the commission did a field walk, and we're here to answer any questions the commission may have.
Yes, we did do the site walk. I'm just jotting down a couple of notes that I have to remember for tonight's meeting. So bear with me. No, one is we have to render a decision whether or not it's a significant activity or not. So I just wanted to make sure I didn't forget to bring that up. Yeah, I guess, you know, the applicant did make a pretty thorough application the last time. So I guess we'll just start. Rich, I'll start with you to see if you have any questions, comments, concerns about what was presented and if there's any information that you're still looking for.
No, I don't have any comments or concerns. The only concern I have is to do with the existing drainage that makes its way to the pond. I don't know that, is there any like sediment removal devices or hoods or things that would be normally included in a new application? I mean, you in the presentation, you made notes of things that you're going to do for the new development, and I was just wondering if there was any consideration of retrofitting what's already there, since it discharges to Patterson Pond.
That's it's for the record, once again, Tom Daly, and your point is well taken. Today, yes, you're probably right that things we were doing back in the 80s are probably not as good as we're doing today. I think there is an opportunity to, as you know, on the graphic you're seeing below, we're rerouting the stormwater around the basin. And I think there might be an opportunity to, yeah, right there. And there might be an opportunity to, right where that we hit the second manhole or the third manhole, the question is, could we pull back the outflow and put a sediment trap, right there, pull it back and do more of a level spreader like we're doing for the new construction. And that would provide some sediment containment just before it goes into the old pond. I think we could definitely accomplish that.
Okay. How about the outfall from the office parking lots?
I'd have to study, obviously we didn't look too much at the old kind of where those drainage discharges are. I believe most of the water goes over to this area, but we'd have to do a deeper dive into the survey and find out what discharges are.
Okay, that's all I have. Thank you.
But we could work with town staff to see if we can do some retrofits. At a minimum, I think we can probably put a hood on those final discharges before they get out to get more sediment containment.
Thank you.
Thanks, Rich. Dave?
Yeah, I just had a couple of observations from the site walk. The old sedimentation basin or small pond in the northwest corner. We noted that the outfall of that leads towards the big pond closer to 84 was really clogged up with brush and fallen trees. It would be a good chance, I would think, to remove that impediment to flow.
Yeah, actually, Bruce called me that, and we would have no objection to getting in there and cleaning it. Bruce was thinking that some of the trees fell down and actually was causing a little bit of a backwater on that outfall. So when we go into this basin, we can actually strategically get in there with a minimal amount of impact, kind of get that old brush and get that old, I mean, I think we can probably all agree it hasn't been maintained, you know, over the years, but we would have no objection to get in there and clean that out. And I'd work with Bruce. We can develop a plan and then present it to Bruce to make sure he's okay with it.
Okay, and the other thing, he maybe told you about the gigantic tire that's somewhere near where your detention pond is going to be. That's obviously going to have to come out.
Okay.
It's big enough to be a planter. A huge
Oh.
planter.
For a full-size tree.
Yeah. Yeah, we can.
That's all I
get
have.
that-
Thank you.
Yeah, we can get that cleaned out.
Okay, thanks, Dave. Robert?
I had some of the same observations that Commissioner Fox had, and Commissioner Statchin can give us a first-hand report on the drainage outlets since he was, giving it a close-up view. But yeah, clearly there's some repair work that would needed to be done to lower the elevation of the water. And the tire, it's pretty, it should be pretty apparent. It's a large, heavy equipment tire, and that should be removed off-site for proper disposal. Tom, I did have a question. There were a couple of catch basins that were in the field. Are those all going to be abandoned and removed?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, and then just from a safety perspective, the top of the catch basins are open, so they could trap some small wildlife or could injure someone if they're walking through the woods. So even on a short-term basis, the tops of those catch basins should be covered.
Okay.
Bob, for discussion, or Commissioner Hin, Chairman Hin, for discussion purposes, I would not view this as a significant activity. It's certainly a regulated activity because of proximity to the wetlands, but I wouldn't view it as significant. And then my final comment is with good soil and erosion control measures properly implemented in working with the town staff, there should be minimal impact during construction. And that should alleviate any significant or any potential impacts to the wetlands. End of my comments.
Thanks, Robert. Neil?
Yeah, I don't have anything additional.
Okay, thank you. Mark?
I would repeat what previously people said about what I saw on the site walk is the old, the old drainage system going into the basins. Obviously, we noted previously that it's blocked, but the whole system should be reviewed just to make sure it's functioning properly because it could have an impact on this project. That's it.
Thank you. Ned?
Yeah, just to recap, the pipe that we were looking at, that carries the water from the other section, that was about half full, and I'm sure it's not designed to flow like that. There's withstanding water, so the elevation of that drainage pond must be higher than it's intended, which is a result of the down trees and other things that are blocking the area. So I understand that it's kind of separate from this project, but it is the same owner. So I think he should take some responsibility in maintaining that. And I think, you know, if that sedimentation basin isn't working properly, then the other one, it will, you know, it can't affect the other, the one we're putting in now. But yeah, I think that's all, really all I had. I think that, you know, we talked about the catch basins and some of the debris that's there. I haven't made up my mind whether that this is a significant activity yet. I'm just see where this goes out a little more. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Ned. I don't have much additional. The one thing I'm wondering though is because it looks as though based on the mapping and what was done, a lot of this property was cleared back in the 80s and work really hasn't been done subsequent to when they put in the two buildings. One of the things that may need to be done is to provide more of an access point to that area, that small pond, so that people can in fact get in there periodically and maintain it. It's pretty overgrown right now. There's a bunch of trees right along the edge that are leaning into or falling into that pond. But I think the bigger point that we need to deal with is where there's a large tree down and it's the outlet flow from there, which is why I think things get backed up in the pond. Like Ned was talking about, the amount of water that's actually in the pipe itself.
Yeah.
And you get the ice on it, you know, the pipe is already half full, which my guess is it was never designed that way. So that's something that, you know, may need to try to work out. I agree with Robert. I don't feel as though this is a significant activity. You know, again, it's the area has been looked at. I just think we need to make sure that we kind of clean up some of the things that are there that haven't been addressed over the years from a stormwater perspective. But other than that, I mean, I don't really have any other questions. I think everybody else pretty much commented on that. So Ned, you may have to make up your mind soon because one of the questions I want to ask is what are people's preference as far as this being a significant or non-significant activity? Like I said, my take is non. Robert said non. So I'll start with Rich so you can think a little bit longer, Ned.
I can agree that this is not a significant activity.
Thank you. Dave?
Yeah, I think I would agree too. Yeah, okay.
Robert, I'm going to skip you because we already got your comment on it. Neil?
Yeah, not significant.
Mark?
Not significant, but does need some maintenance on those basins, you know, retention basins. So
Okay.
That's all.
Yeah, thanks, Mark and Neil. So Ned, have you made up your mind yet?
Well, my concern is just the overall size of the project and the fact that it's, you know, half of the property is draining into, you know, a publicly utilized pond, you know, Patterson Park Pond. And I think if something were to go wrong with the water flowing into that pond, people are going to be pretty upset about it. And I don't know if they, you know, I guess you know, I know they've got the drainage and that the other underground sedimentation collection on that side. So, all right, I guess I'll say it's not significant.
Okay, so it looks as though the consensus is that this particular proposal is not a significant activity. So can I get a motion to that effect?
So moved as a regulated, non-significant activity.
Is there a second?
It's Mark, second.
Okay. I think everybody pretty much voiced their opinions. I'm just going to go straight to a vote. So those in favor of categorizing this application as a non-significant activity, please signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Abstaining? Okay, so that takes care of the first issue. What's everybody's pleasure? Do you feel comfortable enough to render a decision on this? We have notes, that came in from the town. I haven't seen any engineering comments on this recently. So is there anything that's changed on that, Bruce? Are we sort of up to date and current?
Yes.
And town staff is content with what's being proposed and the comments have been addressed, or any comments that might have come up have been addressed?
Yes, the comments are, we had some minor comments in the actual agenda review.
Okay,
And I think they were all just minor. Oh, I apologize, not on this one. It was just any item to be discussed. I apologize.
so I guess the question then is, what's the preference of the commission? Are you ready to render a decision? Do you need a little more time to think about it? Are there any other conditions that we might need to incorporate? I mean, for example, one of the things I can think of is an integrated pest management plan, which is something that we would typically do, especially when you've got a residential area very close to a wetland area. So I don't know if there's anything else, any other conditions that folks are interested in this. I don't know if it's just hooded catch basins people would prefer, or, so I'll start with Rich. Are there any things in particular that we need to focus on that should be
Well,
incorporated into?
I would like to see that the applicant take a look at the existing drainage system and incorporate any best practices on the existing system, like hoods or sumps, that kind of thing, to bring the entire system up to what today's standards would be.
No, thanks. And that's something that we've done on other projects. So this isn't sort of a standalone project where we've done something like that when you're coming back and working on a site. So, okay, thank you. Dave, anything you can think of?
I agree with Rich about updating the old development, and maybe we should wait till the next meeting to see what the applicant comes up with in that regard.
Okay, thank you. Robert?
I agree with Commissioner Fox that we're probably best waiting until the next meeting. I do think the assessment of the existing drainage system along with the proposed system is significant enough that we should, get the assessment from the applicant's engineer and allow our town staff the ability to review and hopefully reach concurrence on, no change or what should be changed. And similarly, Tom Daly, if you can provide any insight on the plan for clearing the debris and lowering the water level where the outfall for the proposed drainage is, that would be useful for our consideration at the next meeting. And I agree with Commissioner Hannon, Chairman Hannon, that we should include an integrated pest management plan with our approval, along with the other things we discussed, removing the heavy equipment tire and securing the open catch basins on the existing system. End of my comments.
Okay, thanks, Robert. Neil?
Yeah, I agree with all those comments. So yeah, let's pend it for 2 weeks and get the additional information.
Okay, thank you. Mark?
I also agree. I think all the data is not in yet, so to make a good vote, I think we need all that information before we can make a decision.
Okay. All right, thank you. Ned?
I did notice that this project was in the Farmington Valley Press this week, and I just was wondering, to David, has the town gotten any calls on it?
No, I have not received anything.
Okay. I agree with the remainder of everybody that this should, we should make sure that the applicant has a chance to fully address our concerns, and then we could act on it in 2 weeks.
Okay, thanks, Ned. And I agree with folks also. I think that it's important to get a better understanding as to, what can be done with the existing stormwater system and maybe get that more up to date. Because we've seen that area has not been maintained. So just want to make sure that what we're dealing with going forward is a little more consistent with today's standards. Tom, do you have any questions?
No, I'm clear as to what the commission's looking for.
Is that something you think you can get and
Oh.
talk to town staff about relatively short period of time?
Yes, with clear indication, yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
All right, so based on what I'm hearing, we'll continue this to the next meeting and no vote on it tonight, but we did vote that it is not a significant activity, so we do not need a public hearing. Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. See you in 2 weeks.
Okay, thank you. Next on the agenda, Southwest Village of Farmington Limited, Lot 1, Tunxus Street. And this is just, the application just recently came in, right? So
Yes.
the
Yep,
activity today, if anything, would be just to accept the application.
exactly.
Okay,
Seb, are you on? He was on. I saw him
it was
before.
earlier, I saw him.
He's there.
I think you may be muted.
Yeah, I'm gonna work on getting him on, trying to get him
Can
unmuted.
you hear me now?
We got you, Seth.
Okay, thank you. Good evening, Mr. Chairman, Commission members. My name is Seth Bovino, planner with Crafted Jones and Associates, representing the applicant. The property is in question is located at the corner of Main and Tunxus Street, identified as parcel number 8976 on the assessor's map. It is in the southwest quadrant of the intersection. As indicated on the screen here, the top of the sheet is north, and that is Tunxus Street. And to the right, which is east, you have Main Street. The land area is 24,171 square feet. It includes wetlands associated with the brook that runs east to west in the southerly area of the property, as shaded in blue. The northerly portion of the property is flat, rather flat, up to the top of slope, then drops to the brook about 11 feet. The house is proposed in the flat portion of the property, which is close to Tunxus Road. The house, the driveway, and proposed utilities will be in the 150-foot upland review area. The disturbance is 9,454 square feet of the 17,815 square feet of upland review area encompassed on the property. We do not propose any wetlands filling or disturbance. A soil report by George Logan was submitted with the application. The upland soils are eudortments. The wetland soils are sacral and soils associated with the floodplain along the brook. All the appropriate notes and details are shown on the plans. We received staff comments and do not object to them. The map will be revised to reflect the changes addressing the concerns. One of the comments relates to the setback along Tunxus Road. That was a surprise to us, but we're happy that we can move the house closer to Tunxus Road. Currently, the house is 41 feet from the street line. We propose to move it to 30 feet from the street line to make sure we comply with all setbacks and have plenty of room from the garage, from the front of the garage to the roadway, so that the cars do not encroach or are close to the roadway. The house to the west is about 35 feet from the street line. So if we put it at 30 feet, our range, the front range of the house will be 5 feet further closer to the street. This will shift the house about 11 feet away from the top of slope, allowing more backyard and proper grading in the southeast corner. Item A on the checklist. So the grading in that southeast corner that Bruce was concerned about at this location, by moving it 11 feet, the back of the house would be somewhere here. So there'll be room to maneuver around this corner and do the proper thing during construction. The impact to the upland review area is the same. If you have any questions at this time, we'll be glad to answer.
David Lord is on, you said, right, Seth?
No, this is George Logan.
Sorry, George Logan. I apologize. I'm thinking a different
David
project.
may be on, but it would be for the,
Yeah, he's on for a different project. Yeah, I don't see George on here.
okay.
Unless that was him that called in on that phone number.
No, I think he had a conflict.
Okay.
All right. Rich, I'll start with you if you have any questions, comments, concerns, considerations.
Yeah, number one, I think this is probably warrants a site visit to take a look at this. I'm glad to hear that they're proposing to move the house closer to Tunxus, because I do have a concern about that slope. That's about it. Thank you.
All right. Thanks, Rich. Dave?
Yeah, you took away my first question as well. My first thing would be to move the house closer to the street, so that's great. I was wondering, what's the light green, well, the greener green? Is that the conservation easement?
No, the light green, we expect it to be the loan area, the area that's going to be grass. The dark green would be the area that would not be touched. Basically, it's from the top slope down into the brook.
The non-colored map that was submitted has the conservation easement as contiguous with the wetland boundary.
Yeah, we have no problem with that.
Is that what you're proposing?
Yes,
I don't think they depicted the conservation easement, if you don't mind if I interrupt, because that was one of the comments I had, is where exactly is the conservation easement?
I think there was one arrow that was pointing.
It's call it a marker, but they're not calling out.
4x4 post with conservation marker, and it's pointing towards the.
Oh, there it is. Yeah, it's right on the it's right on the wetland flags. All right, I
yes,
missed it.
it is there. Yeah.
I think it would be more appropriate to have it at the top of the slope, because if you start making deposits of material or clearing material, whatever disturbance is going to quickly get into the wetlands. So
we have no,
much more protective to have conservation easement.
We have no objection to that.
Okay. That's all I have. Thank you.
All right. Thanks, Dave. Robert?
I agree with the comments by Rich and Dave. And is this an actual house dimension, or is this just a schematic as to what's going to be built?
No,
there?
this is an actual house dimension. There's an actual house plan that was developed by an architect. We first had a basic box on it, like a rectangular shape, but this is an actual house.
Great, thank you. That's better. That's better, because obviously it's a pretty tight lot. So actually being able to see what is going to be constructed would help. And I would agree, we should do a site walk. Into my comments.
Okay. Thanks, Robert. Neil?
Just to clarify, this map, you're going to move the house from this location. Did you say about 11 feet towards Tunxus?
Yes, the back range of the house would be probably right here. This dimension here is 14.7. So if we move it 11 feet, the back range will be just about right here. So
Okay.
there'll be room to come around.
Okay, and you're not twisting it at all. It's just the whole thing's going to shift.
The whole thing is going to shift towards Tungus Road.
Okay. All right, thank you. Nothing further.
Okay. Thanks, Neil. Mark?
I have nothing to say. There's a lot of questions been asked, and the answers are, I got my answers. Thank you.
Ned?
So I assume the steep grade, elevation lines that come past where what's going to be the area left alone with the brush lines there, those are just going to be flattened out, or because I don't see any new contour lines.
Yeah, we're trying to keep the grades as close as to the existing grade as possible. And actually, Bruce requested that we show some spot grades, which we will on the revised plan. You can see the proposed floor elevation is 191.6. The existing grade around the house is 188. So normally you got 3'6" from the grade to the finished floor, 1 foot for the deck. So you have about 2.5 foot drop from the top of wall to the surrounding grade, which will allow a few steps or a small patio to be used back there. So it works well with the grades.
Okay, and the other thing is, we have a steep grade here, and I've seen this pond really get ripping here. This river, brook. Are they going to do anything for like a slope protection on this, or?
Yeah, we're gonna have a silt fence, mulch log, and obviously it's gonna be seeded to stabilize the area. We're not gonna touch the top, the banks themselves.
Banks, yeah.
They're already vegetated, and there's some growth on it.
Okay, that's all I have. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Ned. I'm making an assumption on this, but based upon looking at the topography, I'm assuming that this lot has been filled in a long time ago.
This is a lot of record that's been like this for many years. The growth on it, that we have trees that look like they could be 60, 70 years old.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I agree with the comments from other folks. And again, it looks like, just trying to, yeah, the one thing that might be able to do is work with the town staff. I'd like to see a little more detail about where you've got the proposed clearing down at, I guess it's what, the southeastern corner of the site, where you're clearing some, where you've got some of the slope. I'd just like to see something there to figure out how that's going to be stabilized a little bit more while any work is going on. Because again, I think with what you're talking about as far as the growth that's on the embankment, you are better off leaving that there. It stabilizes the soil. It makes things a lot easier to deal with. And it's been like that for a while. So I don't think it would be a good idea to go ahead and start changing that. But I'm just curious as to how that area in that southeastern corner is going to be addressed. So that might be something you can pull together, just some general information for the town staff, just for stabilizing purposes.
We could, Mr. Chairman, we could place some riprap here, modified riprap area to stabilize it even more. And the house is going to be moved 11 feet, so there will be an opportunity there to do something there. And actually, we can move the clearing, the limited clearing from here, move it up closer to the top of the slope in this area.
And that's kind of where I was going with it, because we've typically done, like in other sites where we've had some of the conservation easements going, we try to prefer the top of the slope, so that this way, hopefully, you eliminate people's intention of disposing of things on a slope where it's out of sight, out of mind, and don't particularly want to do this with the brook down below. So that would be greatly appreciated. And I do agree that this would probably be one of those to have a site visit. So Bruce, if you want to go ahead and, start thinking about that. I don't think we have any 8 to 10 inch snowfalls in the forecast in the near future, so we might be okay.
Yeah, the next meeting is the 2nd, so we can So we can try to squeeze this in on the 30th if the people are available. Do you want to try to do this on the right now, or do you want me to send out emails again?
Send out an email. That's fine. I mean, it'll be, so, I mean, we're talking what, the 29th or the 30th, right?
Yep.
Okay. All right. And we know about the starting time, so, okay. If nobody else has any questions, I mean, the only thing that we can really do tonight from a motion perspective is, can I get a motion to accept the application?
Dave will
So
make that-
move, Mark.
Dave, you gonna second?
Yeah,
Okay. Have a motion on the floor to accept the wetlands application for, let's see if I can find my agenda again, seeing as how my papers are all over the place. Lot 1 on Tuxas Street. So all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, abstaining. Okay, so we'll look at a site visit probably at the very end of the month and try to get everything squared away.
Mr. Chairman,
On staff for the first meeting in February.
Mr. Chairman, can I ask one more question? I just came up with-
Absolutely.
All right, so these storm tech units for the roof drainage, how deep do those have to go in, and how are you gonna work that in with the slope? Because because it seems like, I mean, to put this unit right at the edge of the slope might be tough. And then you have to allow an outfall, like an overflow outfall drainage. So that's gonna have to be, the area of the outfall is gonna have to be protected. Is that the best place for that, or?
We had it in the front, and Bruce recommended that we move it. But now that we moved the house, we can move this a little bit too, again, to the top of slope. And this area, the material is sandy material. I don't expect to be failing. It will work fine. It'll be about 4 feet deep to the top. Usually we have like a foot of cover or so over the top of these units. There's
Okay.
an overflow over the top of the unit, but it will be a small diameter pipe. I don't expect erosion, but we can secure that.
Okay, yeah, all right, so that'll help. I think with the moving the house forward, then you'll have room to move this forward a little bit, get a little further away from the steep grade there. Okay,
Yeah,
thank
I
you.
think the fact that Bruce discovered that we can do that, it helps a lot. Helps a lot. We can move everything.
Well,
Okay.
just to follow up on that also, if the house is being shifted more towards Tunxton Street, and with a comment that you made earlier, Sav, about possibly going in with some of the riprap on the slope in that southeast corner, that may work out to your benefit as well, so that you can direct flow towards that. So something to think about.
Yes, we agree.
This is Rich. Would it be possible to get at least the back corners of the house staked prior to our field visit?
Yes, we will.
Thank
Let
you.
us know. So just let us know if they're gonna stake these corners, or if they're gonna stake the proposed corners, moving the house, just so we have an idea.
Yeah,
right.
we'll have the stake marked when we stake them, if they're offsets or if they're right on the corner.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
I think that's it for tonight. Look forward to the site visit. So next on the agenda, we have old business, Calco Construction. Bruce, I believe that there was a meeting yesterday.
Yes, yep, there was a meeting, and we did go
Sure
over.
if you had
some
it or not because of some of the other issues that have come up with COVID recently.
No, we had the meeting, and we went over the comments, and we hammered through most of our comments of the larger comments there with regards to the footing drains and everything. They're gonna look at tweaking some of those elevations of the houses and working with the architects if they need to add a step or or whatever, just to try to get most of those houses at least out of the groundwater.
Okay. I mean, was that sort of the major issue that staff was still looking at? Because I think there were a couple of other comments that were made previously. Because you had homes requiring sump pumps, some of the basements.
Mhm. Those are kind of the same thing.
Yeah, proposed roof infiltrators, maybe within the high groundwater table. That's all that's being looked at. So if the
Yeah,
house-
we talked about that. I think what we'll end up doing is probably working with those on a house by house basis.
Okay.
I just was concerned with the groundwater, and there is notes with it, with it being a perched water table. So I went back, I looked at some of the old reports, and I think David Lord had actually put in some of them that if you get it below that 4 feet, you're into a free draining material. So I think we'll deal with this on a lot by lot basis.
And town staff is comfortable with that?
Yep.
Okay.
And
And I
then
know one of the other things, and I don't know if you discussed it, was the clearing of some of the fallen trees on the property
Yeah.
that can possibly help with the runoff flow.
Yeah, we discussed that as well, and they have no problems with doing that as well. I put that in the draft resolution as well. That'll be something that I think should be done as part of your initial clearing of the property. That's something I don't want to wait for. Let's get that opened up as soon as possible.
Okay. I guess at this point in time, I'd like to take the commission's temperature about how they kind of feel about the application. So Rich, start with you maybe?
There, finally unmuted. I think the applicant is, gone to great lengths to try and, infiltrate and not create problems for the neighbors as much as I think is possible. So at this point, I really don't have concerns with this proposal.
Okay, thank you. Dave?
I guess I had one follow-up question for Bruce. With the various sump pumps that may or may not be needed, the infiltration of the roof runoff that may overflow, are we confident that the new enlarged basins are big enough that there won't be an increase in runoff?
At this point, yes. I mean, there's not a very good way to actually quantify the volume of water that you would anticipate from that. But we did enlarge the systems quite a bit. I think I want to say it was about 30%. We had them do that, each one. And on top of raising these, trying to get these things more out of the groundwater. So for footing drains and sump pumps, that should actually help that as well.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, so overall, I would agree with Rich that the applicant's done a really good job of trying to deal with the stormwater issues. And I looked back at the denial back in 2015, and they've obviously done a lot from that perspective as well. A lot more vegetative buffer here, keeping the basins mostly outside of the canopy, mimicking the existing drainage patterns that flow towards that water course. So I think that provides a lot more protection to the cold water tributary to the Unionville Brook. So yeah, I think I'm fairly comfortable at this point as well.
All right, thanks, Dave. Robert?
I also have a question for Bruce. Bruce, you said that you're still reviewing some potential redesign of the footings and sumps for some of the basements. That's an ongoing review?
Yeah, and that's kind of a more, as we were saying with them, it's kind of, I felt it was more of an out of a wetlands review at that point, and it's more of an engineering and under the TPZ review. So that's kind of how we worked with. So they're not going to be submitting any revised plans because we can't accept anything at this point, but it was the understanding that we were going to work with them and they were going to look at raising those basements up a little bit just to get them outside of that high groundwater.
Great, thanks. That's very helpful clarification. I think we spent a lot of time going through the application. We've heard a lot of information, so I'm gonna put on my wetland regulation blinders and look at the project from a wetland regulatory perspective and a wetland impact perspective. And in doing so, I think that the project has been appropriately designed. I think the conditions that have been drafted reasonably address all of the concerns to the extent that we can. There were some hypothetical questions or concerns raised by some of the neighbors who I understand have concerns, but I don't think the speculation is enough to warrant an adverse decision or denial of the application. So I would, further, subject to further discussion with other commission members, I would be leaning towards working with the draft motion to approve the application. And then my comments for now.
Thanks, Robert. Neil?
Yeah, I guess the one thing that I've been, thinking about and some of the recent comments have helped in that regard is, when this was rejected years ago, has enough been done and changed since then? Have those concerns been adequately addressed? And hearing from some of the other commissioners, I'm glad to hear that it seems to be that they have been addressed. As Robert said, from a pure wetlands commissioner standpoint, I can get on board with this. But yeah, I'll end my comments there.
All right, thanks, Neil.
Well,
Mark?
oh,
Continuing on that, the kind of stuff I've said before, I've asked about, the sump pumps and these homes being added. And I was told that it was more of a TPZ issue. And so there's a lot of things with this project that is probably out of our jurisdiction, and that you might say you question whether, you question some things about it. But from a wetlands point of view, what they're doing, the work with the basins and how the water is being captured and it's been mitigated into those areas to minimize the impact on the area. I think from a wetlands point of view, this project meets within our standards, that they're taking due diligence to make sure the impact to the wetlands is at a minimal. And so I see this is a project that can go forward. Thank you.
All right, thanks, Mark. Ned?
I do think that they made some efforts in utilizing, in trying to better situate the homes on smaller lots. But I think the biggest problem here was that they just tried to squeeze in too many homes. I really wish they had gone, instead of 11, from 12 to 11, from maybe 12 to 10, and take that last one on the cul-de-sac out of there and give it a little more, a little less runoff, even if maybe take both of the end ones out. That would have been, I think, a better way to address this. And understand they're trying to get as many homes on there, but as they can. But I think that it would have been better handled with cutting more than one house out of the project in the redesign. And they didn't do that. So I don't think they gone as far as they should have in trying to redesign this project.
Okay, that's it?
That's it.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I've been spending time going back and looking at the original decision, trying to figure out where we had some major problems originally and where they stand today. So for example, providing a minimum undisturbed vegetated buffer, from the wetland areas. I mean, one of the things that is significant is that where the current detention basins are proposed are still pretty much outside of that buffered area. They've stayed pretty far away. They're not cutting down a lot of the growth that's within the setback area, the wetland setback area, where that's where we had one of the major problems, and how the water was going to be collected in the detention basin and then discharged. Now it's more of a focus on infiltration. So that, I think, is something that they've done. They've increased infiltration based on the original plans. What's kind of ironic is one of the comments on the original plan was to reduce the size of the stormwater basin, but I think that's because it was situated in an area where it would have had to have been cleared, but remove it from the tree canopy. So in that respect, they've removed it from the tree canopy. So I think the way that it's proposed now makes more sense. By doing it this way, it moderates water temperature, which, because again, the Unionville Brook being relatively close by is a cold water fishery. So that again is something that we need to maintain. One of the questions, Bruce, I have for you is because one of the original issues was hooded catch basins for sediment control. Are all of the catch basins here proposed to be hooded, or is it just one or two?
Just a couple. They're going, if I'm not mistaken, they're going all 4-foot hoods. And give me a second here.
Well, no, that's okay, because my take is going to be a condition I would like to see is I would like to see all the catch basins hooded.
All of them?
One of the things that we originally looked at. I think we need to
Okay.
be consistent with that approach. So that's why I'm bringing that up. I mean, I think they've gone in and they've increased the use of low impact development principles. I mean, I also like what they're doing in terms of the level spreaders and how they're even trying to infiltrate water from that. So, I mean, there are other issues I could go into, but I think a lot of the stuff has basically been addressed. So I do feel as though the design that has been proposed at this time is much more suitable for the site than what was originally proposed. And this is the project. They actually had to take out my hydrology book to look at some stuff. So thank you for helping me get the dust off of one of my books. But I'm fairly well satisfied with a lot of the work that has been done on it. I mean, whether it's 11 houses, 10 houses, that's outside of our jurisdiction. That's really going to be planning and zoning. So it could end up being 10. I mean, I don't know, but that's not the wetlands issue. So I'm not going to really focus on that. But it sounds like with what I'm hearing from folks and a comment that I heard earlier about like the fallen trees and some of that other debris that's got to be cleared up to possibly help with some of the flows on the site. I believe that the way that is being left is they'll work with town staff to come up with a clear plan and how to approach that. Is that correct, Bruce?
Yes, that is correct, and that is, I included that in the in the draft resolution as well. We felt
Okay.
that I think we could do that with some non mechanical means, all by hand and dragging it out by winches or whatever we need to.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's an important thing to do, but I just wanted to make sure that it was being established that they would need to submit a plan to town staff approve it to be able to go forward with it, not just go in there haphazardly and just pull the stuff out. So, okay. And then, I mean, the other thing that we typically look at here would be something like a turf management plan, integrated pest management plan. And I do like the idea that any plantings that go in are native species. That's always a good idea. So I think I'm also of the opinion that this project at least has been developed enough where it's overcome a number of the issues I had on the original application. So I would probably be inclined to vote in favor of the project. So based on what I'm hearing from commission members, it sounds like most people are actually ready to render a decision on this. I don't think there's going to be a whole lot of new stuff that's going to pop into somebody's head that may change their mind. Keeping in mind that we are strictly looking at we're strictly looking at wetland features. We're not looking at TPZ stuff. So,
Chair, if you have one, if you don't mind if I interrupt, there's one thing I want to
absolutely,
just
go ahead.
bring up on the draft resolution. I was
Yep.
going through that again and I noticed comment number 17. I'd like to take that one out. That was all addressed earlier. I kind of moved that in there without me
Okay.
really getting into it. So that was just implementing the previous letters and requirements from Connecticut Ecosystems, which is what you had brought up. They had done a lot of that work and moved a lot of things further out of the wetlands. So that can go.
Yeah, and again, tying in with that, my understanding and recollection of this is that one of the major concerns we had is where the original detention basin was proposed and all the clearing that would have been associated with it. Now we're not really dealing with that. We're dealing more with an existing tree line, which I think from that perspective accomplishes a lot more of what we're looking at, tied along with more infiltration being proposed. So I guess the question is, do people feel comfortable enough to go ahead and vote on this application this evening?
Mr. Chairman, I had a question on the resolution, the approval resolution.
Yep.
And he's got it highlighted in green, and I'm not sure how that goes. Being further resolved that the commission having found that the project as described in the application is not a significant activity and finds the applicant is not required to provide feasible and prudent alternatives. Now, we did find it as a significant activity to have the public hearing, but then,
Okay.
and then after that, the public hearing is, by going forward with the project, is that when we see that it is not a significant activity, or? That's where I get confused.
No, I think the problem with the significant activity is does it warrant, is it to the level that it requires feasible and prudent alternatives? Which it did not.
We've had a couple of hearings where we've said it's a significant
Yeah, we had a hearing.
project that could have an impact.
Was it?
Okay,
And I think that's how we're looking at, we had the hearing on this one to be on the safe side. Just like we had the hearing on, was it 402 Farmington Avenue? But it wasn't a significant activity. The project was significant and it could have had an impact on the wetlands. But I think that's the way that we were looking at this.
okay.
Here, they're pretty much staying out of the wetlands totally. And they've done a lot to listen to what the commission had to say.
Right, I just wasn't
years
sure
ago.
if it was confusing, the fact that we voted that it was a significant activity, and then to put that statement in there. But I understand that this is the approval resolution.
Yep.
And so I guess by action of the approval of the resolution, then we're saying that it's not a significant activity.
Yeah,
That the understanding?
yeah. I mean, because actually there's no work being done within the wetlands. I mean, that's one of the things that we've looked at in the past. But again, the activity that was being proposed could have a significant effect on the site. So, and again, because we had a public hearing on this in the first place, I
Right.
think it was safer to go ahead and go forward. And Robert, you've got your hand raised?
When you're through, yes, I do have a question.
Go ahead, I'm done. Stick a fork in me.
Because I think the key, maybe what's tripping up is it's not, we're finding at this point, it's not a significant impact, right? Because I think the phrase in the Wetland Act and regulations is if we conclude that there is a significant impact, then we have to assess feasible and prudent alternatives. So I think it can be a significant activity But if it doesn't have a significant impact, then we don't have to evaluate feasible and prudent alternatives. Is that correct? For anyone who recently took the wetland training.
It's been a while since I've taken it, but I believe you are correct.
Okay, then that's, maybe that's the nuances we would, our finding would be that it does not pose a significant impact. And then while I have the floor, if I could just ask one more question of Bruce, one of the
Absolutely.
things that I had raised previously, and we talked about with the applicant, was the need to have all of the former agricultural waste and debris at the site. There's a fair amount of glass, metal, and plastic containers and tires and some other agricultural debris, and particularly in the area of like lots 7 and 8 on the wetland side of the stone wall. There was discussion that all needed to be removed without use of heavy equipment. So it would be a low impact removal. Bruce, is that addressed in the file, or do we need to include that as another
number
condition?
9?
of approval?
Sorry, I wrote 20, Shannon and I wrote 21 of these things. I've gone through them so many times. No, that's the clearing of the fallen trees and other debris in that wetland area. He's talking about in the lot area itself, I think, right? You mean up in the lot area, back up in here?
Yeah, well, you've got the
Yeah.
barn and you've got a lot of agricultural materials left on site.
Yeah, we were talking down here with the conditions, but yes, I can add that. I apologize. You did say that, and I will add that to the, or we can add that to the condition.
Yeah, because it really was, it was sort of throughout the site. The area that was of most concern, as I said, was sort of that over the stone wall on the wetland side. And again, the amount of debris was more than we usually see in the types that I already said, the glass, metal, in plastic containers. Some of those were, agricultural containers. There were a fair number of tires. There was some old agricultural equipment, scrap metal, and dimensional wood, sort of scattered throughout the property, a couple of isolated pockets. And we had discussed that it would be removed, manually without the use of heavy equipment so as to not disturb the wetland as possible.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks
Next,
for that
because-
additional time, Mr.
Well,
Chairman.
because of what you just mentioned, you reminded me of something. In terms of the stone walls, Bruce, they're supposed to be leaving the sort of exterior stone walls, right?
Which where these going through the lot, I think they had actually stated that they're gonna try to utilize them on
Right.
site again. So
But the
this one will
stone
have to
wall to the east and the stone wall to the north, those are remaining. That's my understanding.
be, yeah, those they don't call for anything in there to be removed. We could add a condition to guarantee that.
That's kind of where I'm going with it, because again, some of it has to do possibly with drainage, and if you start opening that up, you may end up changing some of the flows a little bit. So I prefer to see the perimeter stone walls remain as much as possible. And I believe that was also part of the hearing itself. So yeah, I would like to see something like that added. And I know one of the comments that I made, which I hope they would do, is to possibly be able to reuse some of those stones to maybe put something decorative more in front of the subdivision. So it kind of still creates a little bit of that buffer, but an agricultural type look. So, and that was discussed both in the field when we had the site walk, and it was discussed during the public hearing process.
You
Because
want
they've
to,
got plenty of material on site to be able to use it and not have to bring it in.
do you want to add that in as a condition, as a?
Well, it's not so much a condition. I just thought that's something that they should look at. That's not going to be a wetland issue. I don't think we can make them do it.
Okay.
But it was brought up just to at least start the thought process that they at least think about that. But I think that the perimeter stone walls on the east and the north, that ties in with some of the flows. So that I think is more related to some of the wetland areas, but I can't say that for, the frontage. But that's okay. I don't think it can be a condition, but you know, at least they're thinking about it. So getting people's opinions on this. So does somebody want to make a motion to approve the application with those additional conditions that we have been discussing? And if we need Bruce to go ahead and just sort of highlight what some of those additional ones are, we can ask, but I don't know if somebody wants to make a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I'll move the motion. Do I have to read the whole thing, or can we reference the draft, the motion that was prepared at the request of the commission to address the concerns raised by the commission? Can we reference the draft motion?
Yep.
Yeah, removing that item 17.
Yes, so it's the draft motion prepared at the request of the commission, omitting draft commission number 17 and adding 3 additional conditions, being the use of hooded catch basins throughout the drainage system, the use of native plant species in the development, the removal. So I'm sorry, those are the first 2 additional ones. The third additional one is the removal and proper disposal of all solid waste, including glass, metal, and plastic containers, tires, dimensional lumber, and other agricultural and similar debris using low impact methods. And a recommendation, so this would be 4th item, a recommendation to preserve and or reuse and relocate the stone walls to the extent feasible on the property.
But maintaining them as much as possible on the east and north sides, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Is there a second?
This is Rich. I can second.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor to approve this application with a number of conditions, which I am not going to.
And Mr. Chairman, before we move, it also
Yes.
includes, if I may, Mr. Chairman, it also includes the clarification that we are finding that there is no significant impact, whereas the draft said no significant activity.
Correct. And therefore, because there's no significant impact, there is not a need
For feasible and prudent alternatives. Correct.
Okay. So we have a motion on the floor. Those folks, those commission members in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
Abstaining? Okay, passes. So I believe it was 6-1.
I've got everyone.
Yeah.
I did, the only one I had was Ned, Commissioner Stanchion that said no. So, okay.
Correct.
I just want to confirm in minutes that
Yep.
we know exactly.
Yep.
So,
Yep.
I'm not singling anybody out.
Yeah.
No, but it helps to have the right names for the right vote.
Yeah. You guys say all at the same time. I get all these lights blinking on the screen. I'm like, who said what?
Okay. All right, thank you. Next up.
And
plan
Bruce
report.
and Sandy, please, thanks for all of the time and energy on this application. There are a lot of documents generated. Please share our thoughts with Shannon as
No,
well.
Shannon actually carried it all over. So I just kind of just took it over the finish line. So that's fine. Thank you.
Yes.
We all thank you.
Everybody's effort is much appreciated. Planners report.
The only thing I had on there was the Wetlands Agency trading program that we just talked about. But that is online now. That's back. I gave everyone the link. It's pretty much do it at your own pace. I think I kind of looked through it quick. You can do it online, take the test online. So I'm not sure. I don't have a list of who has taken it and who has not taken it, but I think everyone knows who has not. So please, if you can take it in your spare time and just forward over the their certificate. I don't know if the existing members who have taken it can take it, but it probably wouldn't be a bad idea to refresh everyone's memory on some of these fine points. Like myself, Sandy, we could take it too.
Is it still the 3 classes, but they're all online now?
Yeah, that's what I got from it. It was all being done online, and there's no specific. There's a date on there, but I think that's just the opening date, and it's pretty much just log on and do it at your own pace. So.
Well, Darcy's had the first session online probably for over 10 years. We're probably talking 8, maybe 7 years for the second session. I wasn't sure when they completed the third session because that was typically hands-on doing something. So, okay.
I think
All right,
there's
thank you.
I think there's a time limit from when you start. I think it's 60 days or something like that.
Yeah, I read through it today. It says you have to do it 60 days from the start, and they estimated that it'd take 8 hours to complete the training, and it's at your own pace. I'm gonna try it. I haven't done it when I probably should have.
I just a warning, I got partway through the first module and I don't know what's going on with my software, but it just kind of froze up and I had to start over again, but we'll
Well,
slug through it.
just to let you know, it might not be your software. Just saying.
Could be the just like the maths or just like the shots. Everybody logged on at once to try to get it done. It probably just bogged it down.
Yeah, I don't know what the capacity is that it's established for, how many people can take it at a particular time, but. Okay, but yeah, so folks may want to, go ahead and consider trying to get that done in the near future. So minutes, that's next on the agenda. Like you said, that was it for you, planners report, right?
Yes, that's it.
Okay, for the minutes, approve the minutes of January 5th, 2022. And don't we also have to approve the minutes for the site visit?
We
Yes.
can add them.
Yep.
Yeah,
I think this was done previous.
Before you guys went.
So
okay.
Yeah.
Okay, this is just the one that I printed off. So can I get a motion to approve the minutes of January 5th, 2022 and the site walk minutes, was that the 15th?
the 15th. Yep.
January 15th, 2022?
So
So
moved.
moved.
A second
Second.
stanchion.
Bruce, I'm gonna let you figure that one out,
Statchen and Fox. How's that sound?
okay?
No,
Wasn't
Simpson.
me.
So
Oh,
those
the
in
Fox.
favor of approving the minutes, please
Is that what you
signify by
got?
saying aye.
I don't know.
Aye.
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 I'm saying something.
Opposed?
You're saying sim, right?
So based on my watch, it's about 8:14, so we will adjourn the Wetlands Commission meeting and go right into the Conservation Commission meeting. Call it to order. So the first item, Land Acquisition Committee meeting was canceled again.
Yep.
Yes.
Okay. What was that, Sandy?
Yeah, it was canceled again.
When's the last time they met?
October, November.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
Okay.
Been a while.
All right. You talking about 21 or 20?
21.
Okay. Planners report, you have nothing?
Nothing.
Okay, next is the minutes. Can I get a motion to approve the minutes of January 5th, 2022, the Conservation Commission meeting?
So moved, Mark.
Is there a second?
Second stanchion.
I have a motion on the floor to approve the minutes of the Conservation Commission, January 5th, 2022 meeting. Those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Abstaining? I think we're done for the evening, folks.